into a microphone.
Right. Turn the ear part all the way down so it's pointing at the ground.
Or at your chest.
Yeah.
Right. And then you just use the mic part as just a standalone mic. And it doesn't matter what they're saying. You're going to get your point across. And it wouldn't surprise me if that's pretty much exactly what Trump is doing.
Absolutely.
So,
and you're listening to Smith Radio at smithradio.com. We are live every Sunday evening, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. If you want to be a part of the show, call in 513-888-1538. Find us on Facebook.com/Smith Radio. And we are on Twitter at Smith Radio, and that's SMYTH. And we are talking about Hillary's new word, because they're losing the war on assault rifles.
Yeah, the narrative of calling specific types of weapons assault rifles, which is interesting. Because if we're talking about banning people from buying any kind of, or banning people from their Second Amendment rights by putting them on a terror list, if you can ban something by calling it an assault rifle and say, oh, no, we're not taking away your Second Amendment rights, we're just not allowing you to buy assault weapons. Guess what? Everything's going to be an assault weapon.
Well, and they
are.
And we've talked about that before. If I punch you in the face with my fist, my fist has now assaulted you. It's an assault weapon.
Yeah, you used your fist as a weapon.
Mike Tyson has 2 massive assault weapons.
And also, wouldn't a knife be considered an assault weapon?
Yeah, especially if you assault someone.
If it looks like what was used in Rambo.
Oh, wow, Bowie knife.
Yeah.
Why are switchblades illegal?
Oh, because if you watch movies from the 50s, bad guys use those.
Okay, fair enough. That's all I needed to know. So,
dude, the left is just got
what's up with
stranglehold on the propaganda. But go ahead.
So what's up with this chick? She's like,
okay, so let's talk about weapons.
How do you not? Come on, they're weapons of war. When would and she tried to pop this question off? When would a civilian use a weapon of war?
Well, first of all, let's back up a little bit. A gun is a gun is a gun is a gun is a gun.
Okay.
And obviously, every single gun, it could be a long rifle, it could be a shotgun, it could be a pistol. They all have the major components of that are all similar to each other. You have to have an ability for that weapon or gun or whatever you want to call it to put a bullet in it and explode powder in order to force that bullet through a barrel and fire it out the end of it at a high velocity in order to destroy whatever's on the other end of that. Unless you're talking about just target shooting where it's just a game of skill where you're trying to be accurate with your shooting.
Right.
Other than that, the only difference in all these different weapons is going to be it could be tailored to a specific thing. Like, for instance, the long rifles, the reason they're long and the reason they're rifled is to give you accuracy at very long distances. So,
correct.
If you want to make the argument that, hey, we don't think that people, civilians or whatnot, should be able to hit a target so accurately at such a long distance, I could see them making a case. I wouldn't agree with it, obviously, because hunters are going to want to hit something accurately at a long distance. But, I could see the case being made for civilians not being allowed to have weapons where the barrel is any longer than blank. Now, the short barrels, which we would call as pistols, right? These barrels are so short so that they're easily carried on your persons and not be so cumbersome. So with a rifle where you'd have to shoulder that with a shoulder strap, and it might get in your way if you're trying to do everyday things, you could have a short-barreled gun called a pistol holstered, and it won't be cumbersome, it won't be in your way, and all that kind of stuff. And there could be an argument made by people saying, hey, those are too easily concealable. You can get them onto a plane if it weren't for metal detectors, or you can get them into a school or whatnot. They're too easily concealable. So it's almost like, is there a middle ground where you don't want it too long to where your accuracy is really great at long distances, or that it's so small that it's easily concealable so that somebody with bad intentions can go and shoot up a place by sneaking it into a place, right?
Right.
all of it's just a bunch of bunk because the shooters they sneak into a nightclub with the longest, well, I imagine it was longer. They called it an AR-15. It wasn't an AR-15, but
really,
yeah. Okay, so I don't have the name of the actual weapon in front of me right now, but it was. Brian's looking it up right now. It was a different manufacturer that uses all the components, the exact same main components of an AR-15. And the only difference is some of the cosmetic stuff on the outside. And for that reason, I don't really have a problem with it being called an AR-15. I find it funny, though, if we're talking about...
Sig Sauer.
What's that?
Sig Sauer.
Oh, Sig Sauer. Sig Sauer.
Sig Sauer.
Sig Sauer.
Foremost in our minds is the loss and the grief of the
Thank
people
you,
of
Obama.
Orlando.
Thank you, Obama. Thanks for interrupting me, Obama.
How dare you?
Okay, so the Sig Sauer used in the shooting in Orlando, the lower receiver and the bolt and the ejection port, if you looked at those by themselves, you'd be like, that's definitely from an AR-15. But then the barrel, the hand guard and the sight posts and the butt stock, which I think it may not have had a butt stock at all. It may have been gone.
Okay.
All right. All those little things that are features of the AR-15 may or may not have been present in this Sig Sauer. But the clip that is used in the Sig Sauer is identical. It uses the exact same round. The trigger assembly and the housing where the selector for safe and fire, identical. The switch is identical. All that stuff is identical. It even has the that little button on the right side of it where if you get a jam, you can rack it to get the jam out, and then you could tap that button to send the bolt all the way home because it will not fire until the bolt's all the way secure in.
Right.
So a lot of times if you pull the trigger and nothing happens, you can hit that button. All of that is present on the Sig Sauer. The barrel, there's like 1 million different barrels that the AR-15 uses.
Yeah, you can go on cheaperthandirt.com and just start looking.
For real?
Oh yeah.
I thought it was a joke. Cheaperthandirt.com.
No, I've bought ammunition from them. Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
I bought a box of 500 rounds. It was like a dump sale. 500 rounds, 9mm for $39.95.
Wow.
$50, something like that.
Okay.
But anyways, yeah, cheaperthandirt.com, and you can buy different pieces for an AR-15, different receivers. You can buy different looks,
and
like
all
they
that
got
stuff.
that.
The bolt housing and the barrel and all that kind of stuff are all like the same thing, and then the bolt is by itself. You can remove that from the upper part, and then the lower part, which is the trigger and the grip and the butt stock and all that stuff.
Now the part that covers up the barrel, because it gets really hot, but you could hold that up there, and sometimes it'll have different holes in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
All that stuff is completely cosmetic.
Yeah, you can buy all different types of those, different designs, different shapes.
Sometimes they have no sight posts because they're designed for you to buy a optical sight.
Okay, because you
scope.
might want something.
I had a friend. This is a $3,000. Yeah,
customized.
Like the one I have is like $900. It's like stripped down. The cheap heavy barrel. Like my AR-15 is actually pretty heavy because it's got a heavier barrel, so it's a little bit more cumbersome. I think it's like 9 pounds, and like the M16 is 7 pounds, and that extra 2 pounds.
That's a big
you
difference.
You could really feel the difference because I was in the Marine Corps,
right?
So like for 4 years we had M16s, and I get out and get an AR-15. I'm like, gosh, this thing feels like a tank.
Pick up a 2-pound package of ground beef.
Okay,
I mean
that's how much heavier it is.
Yes.
Imagine taking an M16 and attaching a 2-pound bag of ground beef on the front of it.
Straps of beef to it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it feels like. It feels like an M16 with 2 pounds of ground beef on it. All right? So anyway, that's what I have. A friend of mine bought a $3,000 M16. I'm sorry, AR-15. And this thing had no sight posts at all on it. And the reason is because he had to buy like an $800 scope.
Wow.
It's like a telescope on this thing. And it was really nice because when we did the sighting, the Battle Sight Zero and all that kind of stuff, I mean, it was, you just put the target, the crosshairs in the scope right in the center of the target, and you fire. And if it misses, or if your group isn't centered, then you can make the sight adjustments on the scope and get that thing centered. So there's like a million, but that doesn't mean that's not an AR-15. And also, there's a whole bunch of different manufacturers. There's like the Bushmaster. Colt makes the M16. So when you go into the military and they issue your M16, if you look on it, it'll say right on there, Colt Firearms.
Right.
And the one I have is a Bushmaster, which gun experts out there will tell you, I have a piece of crap. It's a crappy Bushmaster, whatever. So 6 Hour is a manufacturer of this AR-15. And so whatever, I really don't have a problem with it. I think people are piling on the journalists for calling it an AR-15 when it's a 6 Hour.
Well, but that's the narrative. They don't even 6 Hour. What? It didn't even make any sense. Like that's a foreign term to them.
Right.
It's like they're hammering down on in boxing. When you see that your opponent's left side of his face is starting to swell, what do? You
start using your left.
And you continue to pound that swelling. Well, the left does the same thing, and they've latched onto AR-15, and they will refuse.
So your point
to let
is,
it go.
Yeah, we don't want to lose the point here. The point is that politicians are using the scary look of the AR-15 and all of its different iterations and all the different manufacturers that produce this AR-15 or whatever they call it. The 6 Hour has its own name for this particular type, but it's all the same thing. You're firing a .223 round downrange at very high velocity, usually 3,000 feet per second muzzle velocity. And what difference does it make? And now here's my point. If you can buy a rifle that's really, it looks like a hunting rifle because it has a wood stock.
Right.
And it's able to take a clip, enabling you to fire multiple rounds at the pulling a trigger. You pull the trigger and one round goes downrange. You pull it a whole bunch of times and a whole bunch of rounds go downrange.
Right.
But it looks like a hunting rifle. There's nothing different. Somebody could have taken this thing and gone to a theater in Colorado and shot it up just as easily. They could have gone to the Pulse nightclub and done it just as easily. As long as you have a barrel, you have a semi-automatic mechanism, which a lot of hunting rifles do. You have a clip that enables you to buy a special clip that holds, let's say, 30 rounds. And this guy reloaded so much and was given so much time to do his damage. 3 freaking hours.
Yeah.
You don't need 30 rounds. You could have a 10-round. He could have been loaded up with a bunch of 10-round clips. He could have shot 10 times into 10 different heads, reloaded with another 10-round clip. Who cares about the ban on 30-round clips? If you give him 3 hours in a Pulse nightclub where nobody has the training, if you will, to rush him or to run out when he's reloading, there are witnesses, victims. There are victims who have been shot in the Pulse nightclub who said there were 30-second delays. There were minute-long delays, several minute-long delays where he was on his smartphone trying to find out if what he was doing was trending on Twitter.
Right.
And these people were too scared to jump up and run out.
And he called the local news station to say, hey, man, dude, I'm firing the place up.
Like. Apparently, he likes to say like
A lot.
because we heard the audio of it
Oh yeah, like
from when he was 23 years old.
right
back in
So
2010.
I'm looking at I'm on cheaperthandirt.com and,
Okay.
and they can go ahead and send royalties to Smith Radio. That's fine. And I mean, Ruger makes a rifle. You got Midwest